How to use Reverb in Logic Pro X. Video sections. In this video, we'll talk briefly about what is Reverb really quickly, why you might want to use it, and then more importantly, number 3, how to use Reverb in Logic Pro X. And then we can talk a little bit about presets and different things that will make your life easier in Logic Pro X. Let's start with section number 1 though. What is Reverb? Very quickly, don't want to get too technical, but all you have to really know is reverb is when sound waves knock off other hard surfaces and then that's it. It's like when sound waves hit something and then come back into your ear. That information, that reverberation gives us cues as listeners to where the sound is happening. For example, if someone sings in a cave, you will likely know that that's in a cave without even seeing that person in a cave because there might be a large hollow echo that lasts a long time. Why do you want to use reverb in Logic Pro X with your music? Most people think you want to use reverb because it makes you sound better. And yes, it actually can make you sound better most of the time. It also can make you sound worse if you don't use it right. More importantly, we use reverb because it actually sounds more natural to our ears. It gives us, the listeners, a sense of space of where the sound is coming from. You also want to be using reverb because it allows you to put your instruments in different areas in the mix. So if you want your vocalist to sound very far away, you would use reverb to make that happen. If you want your vocalist to sound very up close, you would use reverb to make that happen. The same things go for guitar and pianos and choirs and drums. You use reverb to kind of put things in different areas. You can picture this as like you're watching a live band on stage. Usually you have the drums in the back, in the middle, and the vocalist is up front. Maybe there's a guitar on the left-hand side, there's a piano player on the right-hand side, maybe there's a saxophone and the bassist at the back corner. They're all in different areas on the stage. And so when it comes to your mix and you're making a song, you can use reverb and panning and different effects to put those instruments on different areas of the stage. Let's move on to section number 3 now, which is how to use reverb in Logic Pro X. This is the song that I've been working on, and we'll do a quick preview so you can get a vibe for it.
Oh darling, tell me what you're hiding. Is your love fading? And give me a sign.
Soloing the vocal.
Dogs barking.
Okay, that gives you a bit of the vibe of the song and what we're going with. Typical kind of alternative pop song. This is my own music and my own genre. The principles will still apply if you're in hip-hop music, you're in rock music. The reverb principles are the same. So what we're going to focus on here is this Charles Klein vocal track. And so that's me. And we have our inspector window. Here is where we're going to put the reverb on. And in this video, I'm also going to be using all stock Logic reverb plugins, so you don't have to have any of the paid plugins. Maybe you're new to music production and adding reverb. Maybe you've done this where you kind of want to add a new effect. So you go down to reverb, and you might choose any of these reverbs: Chroma, Onverb, Silververb, Space Designer, and you would add it right to the track. So here we have a reverb plugin, and it's right on the track here, the Space Designer. We don't want to do that. That's not how we want to add a reverb. We want to bus reverb out. And so busing means, let me just take this off, no plugin. Busing means we want to add kind of, think of it like a yellow school bus almost, where we want to just put sometimes a small amount of reverb in the bus or a large amount of reverb in the bus, and that yellow school bus will drive to the stereo out track and drop off the reverb there. So the reverb is not actually being applied to our track itself. We're going to send the reverb in a bus. Let's, don't worry too much about the yellow school bus and that kind of thing. It's better to dive into an example and show you what I mean. And we're gonna do that from scratch here. And so I'm gonna take off all these. These are my reverbs, and I'm going to take them off, and I'm going to start from scratch. So where buses happen are on this sends little box here. So we're going to hit send and bus. So you can see here these buses. We have already a few buses that have different effects added to them, and then we have these from bus 14 to bus 32 are empty buses. So we want to go to an empty bus bus 14. And here is where we want to add the reverb. So it created this auxiliary track right for us here. This is all a clean auxiliary track. You can see bus 14 here, and you can see at the bottom we have auxiliary 14, where we can name this, and you should kind of get good at naming. You can say reverb, or let's do small reverb, because we're going to put a small reverb on this track. Okay, so this is where we want to add a reverb. So we go to the audio effects, and then we go down to reverb, and then I will show you in this video the Space Designer and the Chroma reverb, but you can choose any of these reverbs. Let's first start with the Space Designer reverb. So Space Designer mono stereo. And then this brings up our reverb. There is a factory default here, which is already a reverb setup for us, or we can go drop down here and then go to the large, to the spaces sections where you can see large, medium, small, warped, surround, HD surrounded. So for this reverb bus, I'm going to do a small reverb. And then later on, in just a few minutes, I'll show you how you can add two different types of reverbs on the track. So in this case, I'm going to use a small reverb. So I'll go to small spaces. Let's go simply to rooms right now, and we'll choose a small room of 0. I like the actually small wet room here of 0.2 seconds. These numbers here are the decay time of basically it's how long that lasts. So this is really a fast reverb. You can see here if we go to large spaces and we go to large indoor spaces like cathedrals or something, there's some that lasts up to 9.7 seconds. So that's a large reverb. Let's go back to small, and we'll go to rooms, small wet room. I'll press play, and you won't hear anything because I haven't sent any of it to the bus yet. And I'll explain that in 2 seconds. So this is dry.
Oh, darling,
just dry.
and tell me what you're hiding.
Okay, that's just dry. And so when we go over here to bus 14, which is our small reverb auxiliary channel, we're just gonna go to this little circle here, click it, and drag up. And you can see it's filling green. So that means I'm sending everything to the bus. I put all the kids on the bus, and it's sending that reverb to the auxiliary channel. And so if I just go half, I want to just send half the kids on the bus, cool. Or I want to just send 1 kid, 2 kids. You get what I mean.
Oh, darling, and tell me what you're hiding. Is your love fading? And give me a sign.
Quick dry versus wet comparison. So this is dry.
Oh.
This is dry.
Oh, darling,
This is wet.
and tell me what you're hiding. Is your love fading? And give me a sign.
So it's subtle, but there is a nice texture of room in there. And if you don't notice it, we can always be changing this bus by going over here, and we can open our, let's go, come on. Open our reverb plugin. We can be playing the track and then using these buttons here and testing out different types of reverbs. So if we want to go right, we can now get the strings room, tom room, so on and so forth, choosing different reverbs. There are a lot of different elements that we can tweak and customize on the plugin itself. So for example, we are on this 0.3 seconds wooden chamber, where we can control the amount of pre-delay, length, size, the wetness, the dryness, the spreads. It's a lot of things we can control. Let's talk about maybe the 3 or 4 things that you might want to control. The pre-delay is important because that will control when the reverb actually starts. So at 0 milliseconds, it starts as soon as there's a sound wave. And so if you have a big vocal with a large transient up at the beginning, it's going to start right there. Let's say you want it to start just a little bit after, so it doesn't maybe get in the way of those transients. You can start at maybe 100 milliseconds. That's still very fast, hardly noticeable. Here, we can click and drag at the top here on how long the actual decay is. So if we didn't like it that long, we want to shorten it, we can shorten it right here. Wetness, you can see it very clearly. As soon as I play and drag the wetness up, you'll hear what happens.
Oh, darling, and tell me what you're hiding.
pre-delay, the decay, the length of the reverb, and the wetness. Just focus on those at the beginning when you're learning Reverb in Logic. I'll quickly now just help you visualize where those reverbs are going. So if we close down this and open our mixer by going View up here, Show Mixer, or we can do Command 2, I believe. Yeah, yellow aux tracks. These are the buses, and so you can see my small reverb right here is where I'm sending the small reverb. And so a huge benefit that I forgot to mention with busing is it helps you really save on your CPU, like how hard that your computer is working, because if you put a reverb on the track level, for every track that you want the same reverb, you're making the computer work way harder because it has to have the same reverb plugin on each track. When a bus means you have one reverb plugin and then you just send all the other tracks to that one plugin. So let's just say like this bass guitar here and this piano here, we want them both going to bus 14. So we can go quickly, just I'll show you to this bass. We can go to the sends here, pop a small reverb on there. We want, okay, let's send half the kids on there. And then we pop over here to this piano and we're like, oh, we want that to be in the same room a little bit, not so much. Sorry, I'm gonna go to add a send, put the small reverb on there as well. And then I only want that much reverb. If not, we would have to go up here. Okay, go add to reverb, put the space designer in, maybe have a preset, but then your track, this track is working so hard because it's like gotta manage all of those plugins. Same thing, we're on the vocal track here. We're going to add a different send to an empty bus. We'll go bus 15. And then we're going to use the chroma reverb just to show you a different kind of texture of reverbs. Also with the chroma reverb, you can EQ your reverbs, and that's what this is. This is an EQ. It's the same as like if we go over here, it's kind of similar, right? You have different EQ bands. And so you can EQ not your vocal signal, but the signal that comes from the reverb. So if you only want the highs, for example, you can like bump up the highs, you can take out all the lows, that kind of thing. Like we're gonna go over to our bus 14, which was our small reverb, and turn that off now, and just play with the sends for this punchy room. So press play.
Oh darling,
bump it up.
And tell me what you're hiding.
You can see the sound going
Your
through.
love fading, and give me a sign.
And so that gives us a visualization of what we can EQ out. A good thing to know about mixing and when adding reverb is to really listen to them in context of the song. And so we will do that next and play with the sends in context with the rest of the music, because you never really want to focus on just playing with the sends and moving up and down just while the tracks are soloed, because you're never listening to the soloed tracks ever. I'm going to start with the small, and then with your bus 14, I'm going to play with that a bit, and then I'm going to do bus 15 to play with that to get the right texture and feeling that I'm looking for. Let's go.
Oh darling, and tell me what you're hiding. Is your love fading? And give me a sign. Dogs barking while you keep me waiting. Well, I'm praying you'll put your heart on the line. Don't you know we've been here before? Do you really think I can take you anymore? We got a burden to bear, and I've been biting my lip. But you can't leave me down in the dirt. You gotta give a little bit, and there's a chill in the air, and I don't wanna admit. Oh darling, and tell me what you're hiding. Is your love fading? And give me a sign. Dogs barking while you keep me waiting. Well, I'm praying you put your heart on the line.
Last section of this video is to talk about presets, and if you find a reverb that you designed, you changed the decay a little bit, you added a bit of wetness or the pre-delay, and you want that reverb. It's like this is your vocal reverb. We would go save as, and it would just open up your kind of Mac Finder window. You would just save it here, and then you would save it. And now you would have My Awesome Reverb located here. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'd love if you have listened to my own music. It's available everywhere, and I hope to see you in the next video.